this is Paul Mackey, and you're listening to the One Idjit's Thoughts on podcast. I'm here in Duluth, Minnesota, and March has so far been more lamb than lion. Allegedly, we could see some serious snow this weekend, but it also kind of looks like we'd just as likely wind up with downpours as snowdrifts. Minnesotans, we can talk about the weather better than almost anyone, so I'd better get away from that while I can, and we should look at the Rockford Files Season 2, Episode 1, the Ironwood School of Success, originally aired September 12th, 1975. That day of note, Pink Floyd released their album Wish You Were Here. It was certified gold in its year of release and has sold at least 13 million copies since. The 2023 Rolling Stone list of the 500 greatest albums of all time ranked it at 264. That week at the box office, for the 12th straight week, Jaws was number 1. In the UK, according to the official singles chart, the top 5 songs were number 5, That's the Way, I Like It, by Casey and the Sunshine Band, number 4, Moonlighting, by Leo Sayer, number 3, I Can't Give You Anything But My Love by The Stylistics. Number 2, The Last Farewell by Roger Whittaker, and number 1 was Sailing by Rod Stewart. In the US, on the Billboard Hot 100, 5 was Fame by David Bowie, number 4, Get Down Tonight by KC and the Sunshine Band, number 3, At 17 by Janis Ian, number 2, Fallen in Love by Hamilton, Joe Frank, and Reynolds, and number 1 was Rhinestone Cowboy by Glenn Campbell. Since this is a new season, let's look at the Rockford Files' place in the network primetime lineups. The Rockford Files continued to hold NBC's Friday night 9 Eastern 8 Central time slot, with lead-ins of Sanford & Son and Chico and the Man, and followed by Police Story. The ABC Friday Night Movie and the CBS Friday Night Movie were the other two networks' competition in that time slot. The summary. There's a new theme song for the opening credits, or rather some extended riffs on the original. I'm curious if the visuals will be updated in the future, but obviously not yet. Rocky calls Jim, agitated about picking up old family friend Aaron at the airport. When Jim leaves the trailer, some men try to take him away at gunpoint, but he manages to get away in a pizza delivery car, a VW Beetle that could drive on beach sand. Jim picks up Rocky in that car, which they then drive to the airport. Rocky is dressed in a suit and fusses over Jim's lack of similar attention to his appearance. Rocky points to Aaron's success and, of course, still wants Jim to get into legitimate business. It seems Aaron's parents were killed and Aaron lived with the Rockfords for a time back when both boys were growing up. They drive right out to meet Aaron on the tarmac, next to his private jet. Rocky continues to fret about what it must look like driving around in a pizza bug. That fretting continues back at Jim's trailer as Rocky begins to suggest that a beach house is in the works to get Jim out of this temporary trailer, but Jim corrects the record, and Aaron admits he's actually been keeping track of them, and he knows that Jim is a PI. They go to Aaron's seminar for his titular school. He's a self-help guru, and he says that he can make people a success for the low, low price of just $5,000 each. That's over $29,000 in today's dollars, by the way. At a country and western bar, the two men arm wrestle and reminisce, and then Aaron drops it on Jim. He's in trouble. It seems he was on a business trip and ended up getting photographed with a prostitute, and someone is blackmailing him. He doesn't want his wife to find out. They want to buy out his company for $20 million, severely under the value that he claims to be $200 million. Aaron tells Jim the solution. He's giving the company to Jim. And Jim says he has to think on that. They bring the papers to Beth Davenport, and she says it all looks legally solid, though she does point out that something of that magnitude carries some risk, no matter what. Jim asks who they are dealing with, and Aaron says it was some guys he was in on an oil deal with that went south, and they're looking for payback. Jim says if Aaron hasn't been straight about anything, he'll sell to them. Apparently, there's a history of Aaron not being straight about things. Aaron swears everything is straight, and Jim signs the transfer documents. Then they go to meet with the blackmailers who are interested in purchasing the company, and Jim instantly recognizes the men who tried to take him at gunpoint. And when the big boss enters, Jim is on a first-name basis already with Vito, who he met up with down in San Quentin. They all see Jim's ownership of the company is legal. Jim and Vito go outside, and while Jim temporarily tries to get him up to $22 million, he quickly signs the papers for $20 million and accepts a cashier's check for same. Aaron is none too happy about this and wants the check. Jim says he plans to deposit it while he figures out what's really going on between Aaron, his company, and the mafia. When Jim leaves a bank a bit later, it's clear some manner of law enforcement has an eye on him. Jim talks to Rocky. Jim has called Aaron's wife and discovered that she's actually his ex-wife. 2 years passed, so the blackmail thing was a ruse. Rockford figures Aaron really wanted him to sell the company, and Jim and Rocky agree they need to figure out why he wouldn't just sell it himself. Jim meets Aaron out back of his hotel to try to get answers, but pretty much Aaron just wants that check. They have a tussle, and once they're both winded, Jim stuffs the check in Aaron's pocket. Pulling up outside his trailer, the feds pick up Jim. In an interrogation room, they work out that Jim owned the company and sold it out to Vito Genosa and ask about Aaron's whereabouts. Turns out Aaron's School of Success was a pyramid scheme, and they're after him for all manner of financial fraud. Jim figures Aaron knew the feds were close to nailing him, so he concocted the scheme to sell it to Jim. And of course, the company has no value at all, meaning Jim took $20 million in mafia cash and gave them nothing. Not exactly a safe thing to do. Anyway, they can't find Aaron, but with all the info traded, Jim is free to go. Back at the trailer the next morning, one of Vito's goons wakes Jim up and loads him into a car with Aaron, Vito, and a load of goons. They take them up in the hills, intending to dispose of them. Aaron fakes a seizure, and they work to get away. Eventually, the feds show up, and everyone gets arrested, though Jim just on the pretense that he assaulted Vito and his goons. In a holding cell, Jim gives Aaron some prison advice, and Aaron says that he might be able to help do some prison reform from the inside. He's got a whole new scheme as they go to credits.
This is Jim Rockford. At the tone, leave your name and message. I'll get back to you.
Hi, Jim. We couldn't reach you, so we went ahead with the job, and I know you're really gonna dig it. But if you don't, I suppose we can always tear it out.
Who is? James Hampton is a character actor that I don't know by name, but always recognized by his Middle America look and gentle Texas accent. I know I've seen him lots of places before, but the standout for me, and I suspect others of my generation, would be the role of Scott's father in 1985's Teen Wolf. James Hampton was born in Oklahoma City in 1936 and raised in Dallas. He studied theater arts at the University of North Texas in Denton. He was inducted into the Army and stationed in Germany, where he performed with the USO. He worked summer stock on his return to Texas and then moved to New York, appearing in an Oscar-nominated short film, then appeared in several episodes of Gunsmoke where his friend Burt Reynolds had a regular role. He landed a regular role as the bugler Dobbs on F Troop and guested on shows like The Red Hand Gang, Dukes of Hazzard, Tales of the Gold Monkey, The Greatest American Hero, Matt Houston, Who's the Boss, Simon & Simon, Punky Brewster, Murder, She Wrote, and many other guest spots. Aside from Teen Wolf, he also appeared on film in The Longest Yard, The Cat from Outer Space, The China Syndrome, Condor Man, Pump Up the Volume, and Sling Blade. In the 90s, he also found success directing many television episodes. James Hampton died of complications from Parkinson's in 2021. Artifactoids. At the bar, Jim and Aaron have their discussion of his predicament at the shuffleboard table. I've always assumed that the table shuffleboard that I've played from time to time at bars was a knockoff of the version that people always seem to play standing up aboard cruise ships, but it's actually the other way around. Table shuffleboard originates at or before the Tudor era, with King Henry VIII known for playing Chauville aboard, and custom shuffleboard tables becoming common in households through the 17th century. It looks like the shipboard version was improvised as a pastime beginning in the 1830s. So what worked? The fight scene between Jim and Aaron was messy in all the best ways. The two men did a great job of making it feel like an almost brothers relationship. I'd love to see James Hampton back, but it seems Aaron is going away in the big house. We do get Rocky, Beth Davenport, and Sergeant Becker all in one episode, though James Garner and Noah Beery are still the only main title cast. What didn't work? I didn't really enjoy the new version of the theme song. We'll see if it grows on me, but it really feels like someone went at the Season 1 theme with a razor and spliced in some amped-up sections, and it didn't even seem like they did it cleanly. There was a single of the theme that was released in June of that year, and it peaked for 2 weeks at number 10 in August, so I imagine this new TV theme is a cut down from the 3 minutes plus single. So next time, The Rockford Files, Season 2, Episode 2, The Farnsworth Stratagem. Happy hunting! You've been listening to the One Idjit's Thoughts On podcast, produced by Paul Mackey in association with Nimlas Studios. Any short clips of audio from shows is included under fair use for commentary purposes, and copyright for that content remains with its original copyright holders. The theme song is Too Good by Jack Mangan and is used by his generous permission. One Idjit's Thoughts is produced under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. You can find more episodes of this podcast and many other fine podcasts at nimlas.org. You can contact me by emailing idjitcastpodcast@gmail.com or commenting on episodes at nimlas.org. Well, I guess those pizzas wouldn't be any good anymore, so I suppose he can just have a piece while he is at Rocky's house. That was a little lame.